Join two sisters who explore the couples that fandoms adore. We write their stories in the night, in the glow of computer light. Eyes connect, clothing flies in our head, canon love never dies. Sense looks that leave us pining in deep forums. We are mining for this journey. Better strap in, because we all know that shit happens.
Welcome to the podcast that explores the couples fans can't stop dreaming about from the pop culture you love. Because when it comes to Byronic super goths, we're in deep shit.
Deep ship. We're your host. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Emily.
She likes nerd culture.
And she likes making podcasts, so we thought we'd join forces and make a podcast that gives a glimpse into fandoms and their favorite ships.
And the best ships are the ships that you recommend to us, whether that's your favorite or one that you don't understand and want to learn more about, or one that just boggles your mind and you want to hear us stumble our way through it. So send us your recommendations for ships we should cover to shiphappenssisters@gmail.com.
And before we get into our ship this week, I think Rachel has one she wants to talk about.
Cracks knuckles.
Our ship of the week.
Guess what? It's relevant. Because I just finished watching the newest season of Bridgerton, and I am definitely shipping Benedict and Sophie. I was on the fence at the beginning. They're the two main couple of the season, so it's not like I'm getting creative here. But if you just put reality to the side, it's like a really sweet couple. I don't know. I liked it. It's Bridgerton, right? Reality is kind of squirmy-wormy. But if you haven't seen the season, which you haven't watched Bridgerton, do you?
No, I haven't seen any of it.
What? You gotta watch some of it. It's a cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
But like the story is never
vibes.
the main point. It's the spectacle of it all. It definitely is it's just fun to watch. The dresses, the attractive multiracial people. It's like if the UN was hot, and it's I don't know, it's enjoyable. It's a vibe. They did something I think new with the historical pieces, like the history pieces. What is that called? Period pieces. And they kind of like brought in this new era of like, I don't want to say Bridgerton's edgy, but like edgier historical.
Well, you
stuff.
like a period piece that has modern music in it.
Girl, I love Harlots. Okay, so Harlots walked so Bridgerton can run.
Yeah.
Harlots is so good. And that kind of little factoids or piece is kind of what made me a little less impressed by the big ship today, because I was like, this isn't, breaking new ground here. Copernicus. It's kind of it's been established with like Bridgerton, The Great, Harlots, all those shows have kind of this making historical stuff edgy. But anyways, I digress. We're talking about Bridgerton. And if I was going to sum up this season, apparently you'll love this. Every season is kind of based on a fairy tale retelling.
Oh, really?
Emily's favorite. So this one was Cinderella. Like quite literally, she was a maid who dressed up as a lady to go to a ball. And there she meets the Bridgerton, who is the hardest one to settle down. And she eventually... They fall in love that first night, and the whole season, which usually the season is like how they fell in love, but this is about how they actually got to be together and come together in the end. And turns out, all you have to do to get your happy ever after is kind of just fudge your LinkedIn qualifications. And then you get to marry the bisexual man of your dreams. But anyways, this one started kind of slow. I was like maybe not as into it, but then over time, it definitely grew on me. And I think it's actually my second favorite season. After my rankings, which nobody asked for, but I will go through now. Season 2 by far is my favorite. That's got the Jonathan Bailey season. And I think season 4 takes second spot. And then season 1, I know that's kind of crazy. And then season 3, sorry, Penelope. Last season was not as much my favorite.
Yeah. I think my problem is they're all based off romance books that were written pre 2018. And I just don't trust any romance books written before 2018.
Yeah. I read the first Bridgerton and it was a yikes from me.
Yeah.
It was definitely something else. The magic that the show captured and created was not present in the books. We could have done a whole episode on just that, but instead we relegated it to the ship of the week because we have another intense romantic love story set firmly in a fantastical past, and that is the ship we are talking about this week. It's Wuthering Heights, Heathcliff. It's me, it's Cathy. I've come home. I'm so cold. Let me in your window. It's been on repeat in my house. I've been listening to that one singular Kate Bush song over and over. I
guess it's trending. I've also learned that the song "I Think I'm Gonna Die in This House" is also this. I didn't know that's why that was trending.
Yes,
I've been seeing that a lot.
As on the soundtrack as well. But that's right. We're talking Wuthering Heights. So coming off the moors, guys, and we're going to dig into the newly released 2026 Wuthering Heights adaptation.
In quotations. Wuthering Heights.
How important were those? I didn't even notice them, to be fair, but I'm not observant, I guess. But the movie premiered on Valentine's weekend, and it was like set up as the romantic hit of the year, right? So it's perfect for shipping. And it promised stunning cinematography and very steamy love scenes. So let me preface this by saying this isn't like a review or a deep dive into the movie, although I feel like our thoughts and opinions on the movie will come up. This is also not a literary analysis because there are other smart people online who dig into that kind of stuff. We are just two smart people who look at ships and talk about like kind of pop culture news around the ships that are dominating conversations, like the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. Right. So I did want to point out, last week, we did a book, kind of, in a movie. This week, we're doing a book in a movie. Next week, episode, also a book. We're like a book podcast now.
I know. Should we just be a book podcast? I don't know. Like, the numbers would say no, don't do that, but at least I feel like I read Wuthering Heights, right? Like I read it, you know? I didn't watch a couple episodes of a show and be like, okay, I get it. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Our job is so that you can keep up with your coworkers when they're talking about the pop culture and the movies that they saw over the weekend, or that help you sparkle at your next cocktail party with your dazzling small talk about pop culture. That's our job. And we take it very seriously. Very seriously, as we'll find out this week. So the film was written and directed by one Emerald Fennell, who's become famous for such titles as Promising Young Woman. Have you seen that movie?
No.
I feel like I watched it on a plane. Taking one from your book. It was intense. And then also Saltburn. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
Wow, Emily, you got to get on with your cinema because I've seen both of those. I actually watched Saltburn in a bathtub. I like put it on when I was taking a bath because I guess I connotated, because you know the scene, right?
Some with bath water.
Yeah, he was drinking the bath water, and it was just funny because I was like, I guess I'll take a bath. No, so they're both known for being like edgy, right, and kind of cool and provocative. But much like Wuthering Heights, I think some of the commentary around it is that it's provocative for the sake of being shocking, and maybe there's not as much underneath it as one would have hoped for such striking imagery as she has. So Wuthering Heights, her latest addition to the filming world, it stars the one and only Margot Robbie, which if you know like one thing about this movie is that Margot Robbie's the main character. And she co-stars in it with some dudes. Yeah. Most importantly, it's based on an Emily Bronte novel of the same name. It was first published in 1847. Get out your history books. But obviously, the story has some staying power because this is like the 5th major film adaptation of the story. The novel created the famous pairing that we're going to be talking about today, and this year's retelling has breathed new life into this couple, and that is, of course, Heathcliff, and it's me, it's Cathy, Catherine Earnshaw.
You've heard of Heathcliff. I feel like that's a name that like you remember in you've heard of.
Yeah, and it's not just a cat. For our efforts today, we're just going to focus on this particular movie adaptation because I don't want to get into the whole book as much as, that's a lot. Again, this is not a literary podcast. There's a lot of people who have written a lot of papers about this.
Yes, right. And so, like you said there's been 5 adaptions. Most of them only cover like half of the book, right? And it's the half with Heathcliff and Cathy in it. So, yeah, we're not the only ones only interested in
this half. Yeah, because we could do a whole, which is funny because honestly, I read the book and the second half, for whatever reason, held my attention a lot better, and I have way more detailed recollection of what happened after Cathy died. Cathy 1, as some call her.
Cathy the first.
Yes. So I'm like, I feel like I don't really know what happened in the first half of the book. And I'll get into it, but there could be many reasons for that. But you're right. We're going to talk about the titular couple here, the people everyone cares about, specifically how they're portrayed in this movie, but also just kind of them conceptually, right? Like the concepts of Cathy and Heathcliff. Because they're the ones that have everybody's attention. They've got a grip on us, causing Kate Bush to write songs, all that fun stuff. So before we dig into the meat of it, Emily, what is your experience with Wuthering Heights?
So I definitely read it in high school, and I know that for a fact because I remember one thing from it. And the act of animal abuse our hero commits. And I remember just that and nothing else.
That's the only thing. You walked away from that and you were just like, yikes.
That disturbed me so much. Yeah. So I had a phase. I was reading a lot of classics in high school. So I must have read it at that point. Didn't retain any of it. And I also know that it is Bella Swan's favorite book in, of course, the equally as dignified classic, Twilight.
Which that is actually very surprising because I don't feel like Stephenie Meyer ever read Wuthering Heights. I feel like she just was like, gothic romance? Yes, that's Bella's favorite book. Sorry, that's so pretentious of me. As I sit here, I'm going to sound like an idiot for the remainder of this podcast talking about literary stuff. But I have a similar kind of background as you. We'll call Wuthering Heights the Edgar Linton to my Heathcliff because we had unfinished business from long ago. Specifically, I was like a burgeoning, annoying intellectual wannabe, right? So I attempted to read Wuthering Heights in high school. I don't think I was nearly as successful as you, because I was picked it for a school project, book report thing, nonetheless. And I guarantee I never made it past 100 pages. I guarantee, because the only detail I took out, I would have remembered the hanging dog, by the way. I did not even get that far. So only thing I remember was Heathcliff, because I was in it for the romance too. I was like, I want to, what makes this book romantic? And the only thing I came out with, Heathcliff was laying with his head in Cathy's lap. And I was just like, oh, romance. But they were still kids at that point, and that was not very far into the book. So I lied and I told my teacher I read about half of it. She's like, yeah, that's good enough. Because obviously she was not a fan either. And I don't know how I wrote a book report on it. Don't know what I turned in, but that's neither here nor there. That was just my first and short experience with it. Then the movie crossed my radar, as I'm sure it did for many people, through the online discourse around it, specifically the costuming for me, because I do love me some historical dress content. Oh,
yes, it was that first picture. It was a paparazzi picture or something that leaked of her in her wedding dress. And I remember, because I also love some historical costume commentary. And I just remember seeing that picture and being like, oh, that's not correct. Yeah, the costuming was not my favorite. And there's lots that I did like about the movie, but the costuming was not it. Cause I'm like, yes, give me chemise, give me stays, give me pantaloons, I'm just like, layers more. And then this was just like, what in the Hollywood nonsense is this? But the movie came out and
I was like, maybe we should jump on this cultural moment and try to do a Wuthering Heights episode. So to prepare, I did go back and finish that business by listening to the entirety of Wuthering Heights, the novel, minus 1 minute, because my Spotify is a pedantic little biatch and cut me off. I ran out of listening hours. And I was like, how much did it cut off? And I went and looked and it said 1 minute remaining. Spotify, cut me a break. Jeez. That was
Fine.
Spotify.
That's just the thank yous at the end or the published
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did hear all the way to the end of it. And then luckily, in a twist of fate, I was actually able to sneak out and see the movie, which is not something, I think I've seen like 5 movies in the last 5 years. So this was
In theaters, yeah.
Yes.
Who goes
Yeah.
to theaters anymore?
Nobody, because I had the theater to myself. Granted, it was a 2 p.m. showing, and it was quite the film to see at 2 p.m. I did not like having the theater to myself because I just thought that everybody who was working there was assuming I was doing kind of creepy things alone in the theater watching Wuthering Heights. So I like, how many ways can you like nonchalantly keep your head above the height or your hands above the height of the seat? So they just like put everybody at ease, like hands behind back, hands on the chairs. I'm just like,
Lounging.
yeah. It's like nothing
Cheering,
untoward. What's the word? Nothing untoward is happening here.
Untoward.
Untoward is happening here. I'm just enjoying literary cinema. And, you know, my gut reaction is I agreed with a lot of the criticisms of the film. It was like a lot of style, maybe more so than substance. It was very pretty. The costumes, I said, were not my favorite. And I think last week I said that the Phantom of the Opera movie was kind of like goth Bridgerton. I would say that is more like goth, maybe Moulin Rouge. I don't know. Maybe they're just putting theaters together. This film was definitely goth Bridgerton. And you could just tell it was like heavily inspired by that Bridgerton pipeline of like what period pieces have become. Like the sets, the modern music, the costumes, everything was so sparkly. There was a scene where Margot Robbie had like glitter on her face. It's like you can't not draw the line from Bridgerton to this. Like you see it, obviously. And plus, my other gripe was I had just finished the audiobook literally on the way to watch the movie. And all I could think about while watching it was just like, what is happening? This is so different. And I was shook when it ended halfway through halfway through the book. I was like, they're not even going to do the second half? And they did make some pretty big changes to the characterization, specifically with Heathcliff, to make him a little less off-putting. Because some of the stuff, they were just like the dog abuse. That wasn't in there. The dog was
the
barely
wife
in there.
abuse too. I've heard that's tamped down. Back.
Yes. And they do it in a weird way to make it look like she is consenting to everything that's happening, as opposed to the reality, of the novel situation. Yeah. But I will say, when it worked, and it was like it was enjoyable. It was entertaining. And the love story was compelling. Like you did kind of end up rooting for them a little bit. And in the end, I was pretty sad that they didn't get their happy ending. I was like, oh. So it did its job, I'd say. Trying not to sound like a big curmudgeon all the time.
It can be hard to like watch adaptions. Yeah, when you like just consumed the original. I've had that issue where I like watched, I think it was a TV show adaptation of a book, and someone asked if I liked it, and I was like, or if it was good, and I was like, I can't tell you, but I can tell you all the parts that were different.
Yes. All the way.
Yeah, it just has to be in the spirit. I saw something that was like, if you're gonna adapt it, you know, you have to make changes, but you kind of have to like understand why you're making the changes.
Yeah, and maybe that was just lost on me.
Yeah.
Well, I understood why they were doing halfway through. I started understanding some of the changes. I was like, why is she his ward? Anyways, they were just making them less related, which we'll get into. I was like, oh, duh. Obviously, they're not brother and sister because they don't want to have them be cousins and get married. But joke's on me. They never even had those characters. Anywho, before we're getting ahead of ourselves because I'm talking about cousins that didn't even appear in the book or the movie. So let's get into the big characters that we're talking about. At the center of the story, at least I would say as center of the movie that I just watched, is Catherine Earnshaw. And she is one of the two kind of central protagonists?
Yeah. So that was, yeah, protagonist. Are they protagonist if they suck? And the point is, like on purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
They're the main characters.
The main characters, yeah.
The characters we follow through the story. So Catherine is the daughter of a nobleman who is living deep in rural England at a house called Wuthering Heights. And they are, in fact, so isolated that the only thing around for miles and miles and miles is another house called Grange, which I never quite remembered. All I remembered was the Grange. Thrushcross, I think. Thrushcross Grange. And these two houses kind of make up the entirety of the book settings. I understand Emily Bronte's world was kind of small, but this book really is there's 8 characters total and there's 2 locations.
I had, cause I didn't read the book. I didn't watch the movie. I did watch some videos, read some stuff, listen to a podcast. And it was described as this is what happens when you live in one of the only 2 houses in the world. It's just this, yeah. They're isolated, their whole little group here. There's just no outside world to them.
Right. And that's very evident by their actions and choice of romantic partners. Mm-hmm. But Catherine is a bratty kid who grew up to be kind of just as mean, but become better at hiding it, at least in some situations. She's described as being a wild child. She spends her childhood running all over the moors of Yorkshire. She's spirited and rash, rebellious, and resistant to authority. In the movie, she's portrayed as more precocious and bossy, especially to her little pet, Heathcliff. She also feels everything a lot. Her emotions are intense and she wants everyone to be aware of them, which is why she ends up not eating for 3 days at a time, many times, a handful of times throughout the story. She's also socially conscious, or at least has the idea that she's got to provide for her family in some way or another. And when she is around finer company, she kind of rises to the occasion and she'll set aside her more stomping ways, even though she's being kind of ripped in half by, that division of trying to fit into the round hole as the square peg, or is she just going to go out, that's her inclinations versus how she's supposed to behave in society. So she's really at war with herself because she's trying to excel socially. She's trying to do what's expected of her as a nobleman's daughter. But she's very drawn and attached to our other main character here, who represents more of the wild, untamed side. And that is Heathcliff. Just Heathcliff. Like Cher or Zendaya. He just has one name. But he appears in the Earnshaw's life one day when Catherine's dad just randomly brings him home from a trip into town. And Daddy Earnshaw, who I will call that because I don't remember at all his name, he makes no explanation other than he's a charitable man. And he was going to try to help this kid out. In the movie, I think he talks about the kid's dad was abusing him and the guy was you shouldn't do that. And then the guy was well, you take him then. And so he did. But I think in the book, it was more I'm just trying to help out somebody.
So yeah, he just shows up with this kid, which to me, especially for that era, I would assume assume that everyone around him is assuming that that's his bastard.
Right. And that is actually ties into the Bridgerton season that I just watched. And I didn't even put it together until I saw somebody else comment something similar. And I was like, oh shit.
Especially because doesn't he educate him?
Yes.
I don't think noblemen were just grabbing kids off the street and then giving them education. I think if he was you can be my footman or whatever, that would make sense. But.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, honestly, I have a theory of how that explains the rest of the story. But we'll get to that at the end.
Okay.
In the movie, they, kind of change it a little bit. And I guess it is to kind of maybe change
just to make it more clear.
Yes, that he is not a sibling and he's not occupying a sibling role. So when they bring him in, they're like, oh, this is your pet, Catherine, right? He's your toy or playmate that's here to just entertain you, as opposed to being this is a new member of our family. Yeah. So he's raised alongside them. In the book, he's kind of treated like a sibling until Daddy Earnshaw's death, in which case Catherine's brother, who was not in the movie, demotes him to servant. But in the book, he spends, he's kind of always a servant. He lives in the shed and whatnot. And he just spends all his time outside of work stomping around the moors with Cathy, with old Cathy. And he's never really quite embraced by anyone except for Catherine. And that's because he is pretty moody as fuck. Like, he's just kind of not super fun to be around, right? He's broody and he's quick to anger. And he is just obsessed with Catherine. And like, a lot of that comes from the book too, because his role as a child or early Heathcliff in the movie was just a guy who stands there, right? He was just always kind of around. He didn't really do anything, overly anything. He's just there. He shucks some hay. He looked good doing it. I'll say that. But basically, a central part of his character that is downplayed in the movie is that he is cruel. And he's just a meanie. He's just a meanie bobini. And he delivers abuse to basically everyone he meets, including his son, his niece and nephew, his employees, extended family, an innocent little dog, and most shockingly, the object of his obsession, Cathy herself. They're not nice to each other, right? This isn't some sweet little hockey player romance, guys. This is a dark and twisted gothic romance. But before there's dark and twisted, there's be cute or get the boot. In the movie, as we talked about, they meet when Daddy Earnshaw brings Heathcliff home. He can't speak, and so Catherine names him Heathcliff after her dead brother, which that is also true in the book. There was a third Earnshaw who died, whose name was Heathcliff, and that's who he's named after. Oh, named after a dead brother. Now I'm seeing the parallels there again. Ruh-roh.
He's just kind of, a replacement.
Yes, for the child that died, and maybe Daddy Earnshaw was just trying to replace him, or maybe he was like a literal replacement of like, well, I lost one son, might as well bring home this other one.
I'll go get the other one, my bonus,
Yeah, which, okay, to be fair, another thing I should probably say is that Heathcliff is described as being dark, and a lot of people have interpreted that to mean that Heathcliff was a black man, like a black child, and they are disappointed. That was also some of the controversy around this movie, this adaptation, was that that Heathcliff was played by a white dude. And I'm not going to say I know anything about whatever. Like, he could be black, he could be Spanish, he could be whatever, varying degree. But I just want to point out this was England. And have you seen them? So, like, there's not a lot of variation. So he could have just had a good tan.
Yeah, he could have just been a tanner for it. I think the point is that he's othered, not even by class, but by race. So by removing that, because everyone's so terrible to him, it's like part of it.
Right.
Class and race. Yeah.
I think it definitely adds a layer to it. But yeah, I'm not saying either way. I'm just trying to make fun of English people mostly is what I was trying to do there. But I feel like that's important because, as you said, it distinguishes him as being othered in another way. But anyways, he shows up, and there's like an extremely dehumanizing exchange where Dad calls him, her pet, Cathy's pet, like he got it to entertain her. And she tells Heathcliff, oh, I will be very, very kind to you unless he's bad, and then I shall pinch him. Which is just kind of like trying to show her character, I guess, as being kind of a little mean-spirited. But that's a big change from the book, because in the book, they just all throw a fit and then come back together, and it's just like, da-da-da, life goes on. So in my opinion, this is definitely a get the boot scenario of just having a little small child show up and then telling him you're going to pinch him if he doesn't do everything you want. Right? But they do have a sweeter moment a little bit later in the movie where he is hiding under the bed. So obviously he's traumatized. This kid is traumatized from something, and he just hides under the bed. And Catherine sits on the bed and says that she's never going to leave him, like never ever. And then his little hand reaches out from under the bed and grabs her ankle, which is like a little creepy, but it's also kind of sweet. And it just kind of shows that, the relationship and the closeness that they're building. And it's actually a tender moment that's alluded to later in the film, which I thought was kind of sweet, but we'll get to that. So that is how they're introduced, but that is far from the top moments of the film because I just wanted to recap some of the reasons why fans are swooning over these two and some of the steamiest moments of Wuthering Heights, quotation marks. Of course, people like the childhood friendship element. They were inseparable and they shared the same wild spirit. Outside of the reaching under the bed to grab her ankle, there's another scene where Heathcliff lies to protect Cathy from her father's disdain and anger, and then he gets a lashing for it. And afterwards, Cathy and Heathcliff lay together on his bed, and Heathcliff says that he would take that beating and more every day if it meant keeping Cathy safe. So just like really establishing like, I'm looking out for you, I'm going to try to protect you as best I can. Another kind of small scene in the earlier part of the movie before they've all had their glow-ups, they're in the rain. They're like standing in the rain because it is England and talking. Mm-hmm. And Catherine's trying to like cover her face to keep it out of the rain because she's also looking up at Heathcliff because he's considerably taller than her. But then he, after like trying to cover her face, he just reaches over and he shields her eyes for her. And people are really liking that on social media.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that. That's cute.
It is. Yeah. To like, he's looking out for her and like, you know, obviously leaving his head uncovered. I did like that one. Then we also have a scene. I don't remember where this fits into the overall grand scheme of things. Sorry, guys. I don't know where my head was at when I was watching it. I should have been taking notes. But there's a scene where innocent little Cathy is visiting Heathcliff or looking for Heathcliff in his like barn loft where he lives. And she happens to see below in the regular stables two of the servants engage in some light BDSM inspired sex. And she's like obviously scandalized by it. But then Heathcliff comes up behind her as she's laying on the ground, peering through the boards. And he like covers her mouth so she doesn't scream when she starts seeing what they're doing. Like her life was in jeopardy or something. I don't know. I thought it was an embarrassing moment for the servants because she's like the lady of the house. She just went like, what are you doing? And they would have been like, oh my God, forgive us. You know, I didn't think it was like imperative that she not be caught peeping on them. But then after
he's just looking out for them. He's like, they're having a good time. Just like,
like
their lives probably aren't that great.
Let them enjoy that horse bridle as much as they can. And so he covers her mouth so she can't scream. And then he covers her eyes so she doesn't get tainted by, you know, the horrible thing that is these two people copulating in the horse barn. And then it's like, kind of erotic, right? Because he's laying on top of her, like covering her eyes and her mouth, and you like hear the people moaning and everything. But that was a pretty steamy moment and a very impactful for Cathy because she then, in a lovemaking scene with her husband in the future, you see her like replicate that position with him. And we're all like, oh, we know what's happening. Obviously. She's thinking about him. And so then the story, the luck changes for these cast of characters when a new neighbor comes in and moves into the fancy house, Ashcroft Grange. So Cathy goes to spy on their fancy neighbors and she ends up twisting her ankle and she has to stay there for 6 weeks while she recovers. And she also gets like Eliza Doolittle and becomes a proper lady while she's down there. And when she comes back, the owner of that house decides that he wants to marry her and make her a proper lady and take her to the big house. And she is having a hard time with that because, sure, he's rich, fancy, nice, genuinely in love with her. Boring, right? She says that she's torn because she want to marry him. She's like, rationally, I should marry him, but something's wrong with me. Like something, wherever the soul is in a human, mine's is busted. Because all she wants to do is be with Heathcliff. Like she's like, I love him. And she obviously is like, I don't feel like I can marry him. But she's just like lamenting the situation to her buddy, Nellie, which let's not even get into that. She's doing what she does, which is complain. And she says, Heathcliff, he's more myself than I am. Whatever souls are made of, his and mine are the same. And that's like the big line from the book. It's like the big line of like Bronte sisters, right? I've heard that before even making it this far in the novel and the movie, obviously. But then she also says things that he doesn't hear that part where she says she loves him. He hears her say being married to him would degrade her, right? Obviously, because he's just some dude at her dad's house. She can't really marry him. And when he hears that, he's just like, he kind of underreacts a little bit, you know? He just packs up and runs away for 5 years. So in the movie, Cathy was actually not going to go through with marrying Edgar Linton, the fancy neighbor. But because Heathcliff's gone, she's like, well, shit, might as well. And she delayed she delayed the engagement a year, waiting for him to come back, but he didn't. So then they're like, I guess we're married. I'm going to put on this 1950s ball gown and run through the moors by myself. With a veil the size of Texas. It was strange. I was not a fan of that sequence. But anyways, where she talks about the romantic tension between them, like people really like that. I don't know. It was a romantic line. Whatever souls are made of, his and mine are the same.
Oh,
no.
Yeah. But yeah, so you get a lot, in the movie at least, there's like pining on both sides. I don't know in the book if there's so much Cathy pining. But,
right. I didn't get that they were actually in love until the last time they met, which was right before she died. I was like, I know they're close and everything, but like obviously it was a lot more implied behind the scenes. And there's a lot less implied in the movie because when Heathcliff returns, he comes back and leaves his calling card for Cathy, which is a bunch of eggs in her bed. So she sits down on the bed and a bunch of eggs crack, and it's a callback to a prank that she had played on him earlier. But she was all excited. She's like, he's back, and runs out to the moors. And I'm like, girl, he was in your room. That's upsetting, right? A little bit. Like he didn't just come knocking. He was like, I'm going to plant all these eggs in there. Or pay somebody to. Kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But anyways, they go out and the moors, and there's this really intense scene where she sees him standing in the fog and the shadows, and he emerges, and by God, he's had a glow up. He looks really good now, and he obviously is rich, and we're all like, oh damn, Cathy, what'd you do? Yeah, then he's back. So that was kind of a cute scene. And then through the series of events and meetings on the moors, they start having an affair behind the back of Edgar. Now, I keep talking about Moulin Rouge, but this actually reminded me of that montage where, like, they're making out behind the Duke's back, but it was, like, the same vibe. Music was playing, and they're just, like, shagging all around different places, and her being like, we have to end it, and he's like, no. But it was hot. I guess people liked it. There were some hot scenes in there. Like, he lifts her up by her corset at one point, which I was like, this doesn't seem accurate, like, physically possible. But then there's another scene that I think everybody's probably seen variations of, or people, like, replicating online, where he, like, sucks on her fingers. And apparently people thought that was sexy, but to me, there's too much finger stuff. Which I will blame Bridgerton for that, because the one time the one guy like moved his finger or whatever, he like, did you hear about this?
I don't think so. From Bridgerton?
Yes. So now we all have to be conscientious about which finger might have vaginal mucus on it. Because the one time the actor, like, he was using his hands to stimulate her, and then he like smoothed her dress, but he like withheld one finger, which is presumably the finger that was inserted, because he didn't want to smudge her dress. And now everybody thought that was so romantic and so hot that it's now everybody has to care about this stuff. So then you get a new season of Bridgerton where the guy puts his fingers slowly into his mouth before touching her. Just like all this stuff is like, okay, nobody wants to watch a movie to see somebody get out like a huge tub of lube, right? Like, let's just pretend this is the world, you know, not the real world, and we could just do whatever at any time. But anyway, so now everybody's fingers and mouths and whatnot, blah, 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 blah. He, like, sucks on her finger. People liked it. I go, ugh, because I'm obviously the only one in the movie
they
theater.
haven't invented hand washing yet. Like,
I know. You don't know what that hand's been doing.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yep.
That's why they all got syphilis.
Well, she probably had less than ideal hygiene habits, because we'll get into it. She breaks it off with Heathcliff saying like she can't do it. She's, you know, she's pregnant. Surprise. Not Heathcliff's. by the way. She was pregnant before we got back. And she just calls off the affair. She's like, I can't do this to Edgar anymore. He's a good man. And then Heathcliff gets pissed and he runs off with Cathy's sister-in-law, or like not quite sister-in-law. And he takes her away to go do weird pet play stuff just to make Cathy upset. Which, again, the pet play stuff was weird, but it was, like, obviously included. Like, a deviation of Heathcliff's character from the book to the movie is that he goes and busts into Isabella's room and he, like, asks her for consent. He's like, I'm going to be an asshole to you. Should I stop? And so it's like, well, they had him paint her as complicit instead of he tricked her into running away with him and then hung her dog. Yeah, I just was just like, okay, come on, Heathcliff apologist.
Yeah, if to make it work, or like at least a little bit palatable there, or palatable at all.
Yeah.
They really had to dial his whole deal back.
But some people, like, I bet some diehard fans of the novel didn't like that because them being disgusting and awful is like what the appeal was, right? It was just like no holds. It's what made it dark and gothic. But anyway.
Well, it gets into like, is the point romance or is the point revenge?
Right, which it doesn't quite ever say. I feel like the book doesn't ever explicitly be like, this is a story of revenge, or this is a story of love, or this is a story about class warfare. Nobody knows. Or class upholding. I have some thoughts about that. Anyhoodle. Long story short, after he runs off with her sister-in-law, Cathy eventually gets sick and dies. And Heathcliff returns, and one last romantic gesture barges past Edgar. Is like, no, I must see her because I loved her better than you. And then he lays with her body and sobs. And he says some lines that I think that were in the book in maybe differing places. But he says, you said I killed you. Haunt me then. Be with me always. Take any form. Drive me mad. And that's where the movie ends. In this case.
Didn't even get to the ghost.
There was no ghost. There was literally no, I was like, how are you going to do Wuthering Heights without Cathy's marauding ghost? Like, come on. It just like, that's where the real romantic goth shit begins, is after her death. And so I just wanted to point out, because I said we're mostly going to talk about the movies, let me just rapid fire talk about the things that they cut out that I thought were more goth and more romantic than banging in a stagecoach. One.
That's a Bridgerton thing too.
Yeah, there was coach sex, and it was supposed to be super secret, but like, who was driving the coach? Anyways, that's that. Let's get to where the goth romantic shit happens that the movie left out. One, Heathcliff begging Cathy's ghost to come to him. Like, it's a major part of the opening sequence, is the only spooky part of the book, in my opinion, is Cathy's ghost appears to this character who's not important in this telling of the story, and like does spooky shit. Like, tries to break in the window and ends up bleeding everywhere. It was spooky. And then when Heathcliff comes barging in, he's not mad. He's just like, no, come to me. Come haunt me, Cathy. And that's kind of sweet.
Because even in death, right, it seems to be that she haunts the house, but she doesn't haunt him. The one guy who would like to see a ghost.
Right. Like, he wants to see her. She's always just out of his reach.
Yeah. So just screwing each other over, even in death.
Yeah, they're not nice to each other. Okay, number 2, the lock of hair. In the book, he creeps to her dead body and he takes a locket that she has wearing that has a lock of her husband's hair in it, and he throws it out and he puts his own hair in. But then Nellie, this character that's very important but not who we're talking about today, she creeps in and she twists them together and puts them in the heart, which is very symbolic, honestly. And that Cathy is tied to both of them in death as well, and not just one. Number 3, he exhumes her body to look at it or something. I don't know. He bribes, when they're burying her husband, he bribes the digger to like open up the casket so he can get a look at her. Sure,
just
pal.
her corpse?
Yeah, sure, pal. Yeah, that's all that happened. But that's some top-notch goth shit. And he also does like some kind of trickery to make sure he's closer to her than Edgar after he dies. Cool.
That's funny.
That's just petty. I was like,
it's so stupid.
he just can't handle it. But that just shows like the bigger romantic part to me is that he never stopped pining for her. Like, not throughout decades and decades of the remainder of his life. Like, sure, crying with her on her deathbed is one thing, right? Like, everybody's sad when people die. But if you never let up, right? If you're still burning that torch for that person after having your own kid, a niece and a nephew-in-law, right? It's just like he did it all to avenge her or whatever he thought he was owed.
Right. So yeah,
for not getting to be with
like
her.
for the love of Cathy, or is it for the love of like winning out over Edgar?
Oh, well, not just Edgar, but Henshaw,
everybody,
right?
Yeah.
And who's, again, not a character that was in the movie. They took a very small cast of characters and they made it smaller, which honestly, for the best. They all had the same name. Literally. Anyways, so yeah, that's a big debate about the story, but obviously he still loved her enough to want to go look at her dead body after all that time. And then when he did die, this is number 4 or 5, I don't remember. This is, I think, is the more romantic part, is when he did die, he was found to be finally looking at peace, and he was hanging half out his window. So it's like she actually did come to him eventually. And they were reported by the townfolk to haunt the moors together. And honestly, that was the only part of the book I was like, no. I was like, you little super goths you're hauntingly ever after all.
Just stomping out on the moors, spooking everybody around you.
Yeah, that's like their heaven. And it was just kind of sweet. It was like that last line in Black Beauty where they're like, we're all together where we were happy again. Because arguably, I think these kids were like, these people were happiest when they were out running around together as kids. So, So that is what the movie left on the table, guys. I mean, sure, we could have had a little less finger sucking and a little more haunting. I think that would have been fantastic. But I don't know if that is what this audience that this movie is geared toward would have liked. That is what me, aspiring academic goth girl, would have liked.
More ghost.
Yep. So I'm just going to breeze through this next section because it's mostly quotes anyway. So why are fans so invested in Cathy and Heathcliff? I mean, can we just say the same thing? Like, ditto, repeat what other people have talked about? Because it feels like a lot of the same, right? Mm-hmm. Intensity. People like that there was an all-consuming obsession. It's so fitting for goths. Because Cathy and Heathcliff really perceive themselves as feeling and like perceiving and living on a higher level than those around them.
Yeah, nobody can understand. Nobody's felt the way they felt. Nobody's loved the way they've loved. They also are teenagers through a lot of this, which really kind of...
That does
yeah.
It was less attractive when you're in your 30s, I will say. When the actors are that old, you're like, come on, guys. But Heathcliff literally says in the book, if Edgar loved with all the powers of his puny being, he couldn't love as much in 80 years as I could in a day.
Okay.
Yeah, I put that in a My Chemical Romance song. For sure. So it's definitely intense and passionate. Also, the identity piece where they talked about the characters were so tied together. They both know each other better than they know themselves, as Cathy said, right? And they just happen to use that knowledge to generally make each other miserable in the most effective ways possible. But you can't deny that they have this deeper knowledge and connection. They really are one person. As Cathy says in that quote, after saying our souls are made of the same thing, she literally goes, I am Heathcliff. And could that be because their souls were the same or half their DNA? Nobody knows.
Right. Are they kind of, trauma bonded through their childhood?
Yeah, right. It's definitely, there's a lot of similarities in their personality that could be star-crossed or could be because they come from the same man, right? It's just, I can't believe I missed that little tidbit until I started actually writing the script. I was like, damn. That makes a lot of sense. Other people really like the love story because it's messy and real and not idolized. This isn't a Z-Link, right? Where it's just the perfect boy, girl, knight, maiden love story. This is messy, intense, and the people who are behind it will say that doesn't negate, the toxicity doesn't negate the love that was happening. It was actually just kind of makes it real, makes it more meaningful, and makes it more, like, I don't know, maybe relatable. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Or entertaining, at least.
Right. Again, it's fiction. We can explore these ideas without putting ourselves in danger. So as many fans as there are of Cathy and Heathcliff, there is probably just as many critics, or not more, right? Because I kind of read the book and I was like, what? I was like, I don't, it's grown on me reading other people's interpretations of it. I'm such a follower. I'm like, I'll read stuff and I'll be like, yeah, that's true. But when I read it myself, I was just like, they're so mean. They're just all smacking each other and like saying horrible things about each other. Although I will say, Cathy had a great line that I think we should all live by, where she was talking about her sister-in-law wanting to be with Heathcliff, and she's like, she's a little idiot who thinks that Isabella's gonna go in and change this dark, brooding man and make him nice. She's like, she's so dumb. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. I think we all need to have that line in front of us from time to time. But anyways, that's my criticism. But many other will agree that it is less love, more obsession, and definitely abuse at times. Mm-hmm. They're just mean. They say horrible things to each other. They get physical with each other. I mean, even in the movie, there was like 45 seconds of the girl slapping the guy on the chest because she was mad at him. I was like, stop. This just looks weird. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah. And it's happened for a long time. But anyways, and other people will criticize Heathcliff's actions, that he's punishing Cathy for being ambitious in the only way women were allowed to be ambitious at the time. Like, she couldn't go off and make a fortune doing sketchy stuff that he did. It's like, her only way to improve her station in life was to marry rich.
Well, yeah, and to like ensure any kind of security for herself, or even get away from her like brother who was shitty.
Right.
Yeah. She didn't really have any options.
Yeah, and they upped the ante of that in the movie by making their family destitute. So, like, they were either going to starve or she could marry him and then, like, they could be comfortable. So, there you go. What is she going to do? She didn't, even if Heathcliff was like, I'm going to go out and get rich and come back, she's like, what is she going to, she can't go with you. Like, if you're in the army or whatever, you know? So, again, people felt he was being really hard on her. Also, people will say that they suck, which I feel like we've also said but many times. And Cathy's abrasive and kind of annoying, and Heathcliff, same, but in different ways. They complement each other.
Yeah, sometimes that works for me, though, because it's kind of like, yeah, you guys go be together, leave everyone else out of it.
Right. If only they had done that, too, because here's another criticism that I saw of the movie, right? I'm sure if you dig into it more from the lens of like history and whatnot, it doesn't make as much sense. But he was like, why didn't they just run away together? Like, he's rich, and she's horned up. Like, just leave, bruh. I don't understand. Why are y'all staying here? Like,
right, that's the whole thing. Like, there's a whole world and they just don't go anywhere or leave it, or
they can't
that's
imagine
not even an option.
Yeah, outside of their two houses.
Yeah.
Easily. But instead of doing all that, they just decided to ruin each other's lives. Because Heathcliff didn't just want Cathy at that point. He wanted to ruin everybody and their children. Like, he was just like, because he bought Wuthering Heights to stick it to Henley Earnshaw, or what? I don't remember their names. To stick it to Cathy's brother. And then he absolutely tanked him. And then he went after Edgar. He just wanted to own all the houses, to be like, haha, Uno reverse. Boom.
Yeah. Now I'm the Lord.
Yeah, but like most of the people that he wanted to insult were dead. And so he was just like, yes, I'm owning you from the grave. Not a great use of time. But anyways, that's some of the criticism. There's a lot of discussion around it. Again, we're not a literary podcast. I will say one thing about Cathy too, Catherine Earnshaw's daughter, she's batting 100. Not only did she marry two people, 100% of which were her first cousin, she literally married every first cousin she had. Batting 100. And this gets into the topic. This is not anything to do with what we normally talk about, but like my old podcast where we talked about like science and social sciences, there's this thing, it's called genetic sexual attraction. I just wanted to bring it in here because I feel like it applies. At first I thought it was like specifically about the second generation, but also now I'm thinking maybe it applies to Cathy and Heathcliff as well. But it's the phenomenon where closely related individuals, like, 1 degree of consanguinity or whatever that word is, that means you're like 1 degree separated, like siblings or parent-child. If you are not together during early development, like birth from childhood on, like babyhood, baby on, and you meet later, it is common for people to develop intense romantic or sexual attraction upon reuniting with those people as adults. And they say it occurs because it's like you see the mirror. People are attracted to people who like remind them of themselves, like, but we don't pick up on that, I guess, or remind them of things they're familiar with, i.e. themselves. But because they're not desensitized to it, when they see somebody who like literally mirrors them and looks like them, they just confuse that intense bond with attraction. And this is normally negated by something called the Westermarck effect, which I did want to talk about. I can't remember on one of the other episodes we did, but I cut it out for time. But it's the idea that like kids who are raised together, even if they're not genetically related, will not grow up to be attracted to each other. And it's about, so like we're not typically attracted to siblings and that kind of stuff and cousins because it's not because of DNA, but because we spent time with them as children. And there's like an evolutionary thing going on in humans that kind of anybody you were raised with as a child will kind of negate them from your pool of potential romantic interest unless you're Cathy too. Well, actually, no, because she didn't know them growing up, right? They didn't get a chance to know each other. So then she had the attraction to them through the GSA, right? And in my opinion, same with maybe Cathy and Heathcliff. That basically the moral of the story is let your kids know your kids that they're siblings, right? Like, try to stop this craziness from happening by just keep your families together. Guys, like, because they were trying to protect Cathy by not letting her see Hindley. I don't know if that's his name. Hindley and Linton. But in the end, she ended up marrying both of them. So.
Well, that's what happens when the only 2 houses in the world.
Really?
There's no one else to her to marry.
There's literally 6 people in the whole book. And I'm like, I like whenever I try to come up with a story, I never like have more than 5 people in it. So I can appreciate that, Emily.
Yeah.
Emily Bronte, not Emily, my sister, who I'm podcasting. Oh, yeah. But I can appreciate that to you too. Well, there we
Keep
go.
It cast small. What is that what you think too, Marley? My kitty is yapping. So that is Wuthering Heights, the book, the movie. And so we always kind of want to look into fan fiction, see what type of like, what other work is this work inspiring?
Right. We try to be a fan first.
Yes.
But this episode is a little different.
But I mean, we talked about the movie, and I have seen, in some commentary on the movie that it was described as a self-insert fan fiction. So you could say it's fanfic, but it is a particularly successful one because it has made close to 200 million at the box office. Which is kind of funny because all I see are criticisms, but I guess if you're gonna make some commentary, you guys should see the movie first. So.
Right, exactly. You got to pay to be able to write your pieces about it. And they got my $8 because I was going to make content about it. So
True.
There we are.
There you go. New strategy.
But I did walk out of the theater, and that is how I kind of rationalized that's how I kind of digested it. It was like, this isn't really an adaptation of Wuthering Heights, but it's like a fanfic movie where they take the characters, the essence of the characters, and they just kind of do what they want with them.
Right. People are like, if you had just not called it Wuthering Heights, it wouldn't have been as big of a controversy or whatever. But I did look at AO3 to see if there's any, what the fanfic situation out there is. It's not a lot. There was only about 200. There seems to have been some increase in the past month the movie's been out. So some people are inspired. They're writing.
Yeah, there might be more.
Yeah, and I might be looking in the wrong place. It's been out a long
I looked
time.
too as well, and there was only 150 that were specifically Catherine / Heathcliff.
Maybe fan fiction, not so much. But this probably, of the topics we've discussed, has the most like doctoral theses written about it.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
most papers, the most probably adaptions, other books inspired by these characters. So, it's impacted just different.
Right. It's a different kind of audience, right? A lot of the
Yes.
stuff that we cover, people are inspired when they want to talk more about it. They go to fanfic, they go to AO3. This one, they go to Hollywood and they make movies.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more pretentious, right? It's a little bit elevated of a group, maybe.
Yeah. Or they write books about it or
Right.
dissecting all the metaphors and literature things. I haven't taken an English class since high school, so this is
Right. A literature
not,
class.
not how I engage with text.
No, we're a little bit more of the people.
Yep. Is it a good story? Do I like it? Yeah.
Well, okay, asking those questions, that's a perfect segue into our OTP score that I just dropped into it. I waffled on even doing one, but, we got to have some lows.
Some variety.
All right, let's get into it. And if you want to, we have a link in the show notes so you could take this little quiz along with us to see what score you give Cathy and Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights. So let's dig into it. Do we see it? Do we see the romantic part, the ship?
I guess so. I feel
In
like
the
they're
movie,
pretty
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah. Do I want to see
Couple.
more? Nah, fam. I'm good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Honestly, maybe I'd check out a fic or two. Maybe. I would say I'd read one. I'd read a couple, maybe like one, just because it is like a different vibe. From the movie, yes. Book, no. Spoon factor. Ooh. Okay. The movie was love of a lifetime. It was kind of swoony.
Right, that's the whole thing, is that they have chemistry and they just like can't be together and they're also bad people.
Yes. Oh my God. Are they actually going to have a higher rating than we anticipated? Uh-oh.
Maybe. So
'Cause
that's
next-
swoon though, chemistry.
I don't know. The guy who played Heathcliff in the movie was very good looking. In real life, not so much, but that man, he would have crushed it back then.
Right.
Like, cameo
And people like
face.
that corset move.
The
That
whole
keeps coming up.
time, I was like, it's like a wedgie, but not really. I don't know. It was odd. I don't know if I felt the chemistry between the actors as much, so I'm going to give it 3.
Chemistry, I'll do 2 maybe. Just from the
Sucking on the
description.
fingers. Yeah, no thank you. Would they be good
So
together?
here we go. Toxic AF.
Toxic AF. Is the story interesting? Oh, this is where it's awkward because it's like,
Because it's classic, right? It's a yeah.
like if I read it and I didn't know somebody else had, I feel like I would tell my friends about Wuthering Heights to be like, check out how crazy this book is.
Yeah, I don't want to do been there, done that, or tropey AF, but also like I read it in high school and I remember nothing, so like it left not that much of an impression on me at the time.
Yeah, maybe a solid story because I don't think I would talk about it a ton if I didn't have to for a podcast. Okay, that's fair.
We'll say slow because I understand like what's going on, what's there, why people like it. Like it's just not my bag.
Yeah,
personally.
well, I would have read it, I would have put it down, and I never would have thought about it. But because we had to talk about it, I looked it up, and then that made me appreciate it more, like other people's analysis of it. So, yeah, solid story. Okay, boom. 50%, and that's somehow higher than some other couples, which speaks to just the power of Heathcliff
Right,
and
you just
Cathy.
can't deny they're like drawn to each other.
the
They
romantic
got some
part
good
of
moments in there. I do the soul, what our souls are made of, and I really like the like haunt me.
it. Yeah, that is kind of badass in hindsight.
Very romantic goth, very gothy.
Yeah.
I got 40, so I'm a little lower. I'm always a little lower. I'm not as nice.
Oh man, I thought we picked most of the same thing, but yeah, that's fair. And that is it for Heathcliff and Cathy. I'd say go out and see the movie, but maybe rent it or whatever when it comes on to streaming. It's kind of, oh, did we go see Cheeky Blights at Cheeky Creek?
What?
Crimson Peak. Did we see that movie together?
I don't think so, because I think you told me a lot about it.
Go watch Crimson Peak because that's like what this is trying to be. It's still somehow not as shocking as Crimson Peak. Man, I'm going to go watch that. I feel like I saw it somewhere on streaming. So you're going to go read your book. I'm going to go watch Crimson Peak.
Yep.
Tom Hiddleston. Woof. Aruga. Okay. Well, that's it for us this week. Once we start devolving into cartoon sounds, that's where it's time for us to end it. If you enjoyed the show, give us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcast. You know the drill. Leave us a comment or send an email with any couples you want us to cover or your thoughts on Wuthering Heights. Like, please send us your dissertations because I like reading what other people get out of stuff. And definitely, as I said, I get swayed by it. And I'm like, wow, that's a really good point. So send us those beautiful thoughts and we'll maybe share them on the next episode. Because you could bet we'll be here right back in these seats in another 2 weeks talking about another couple that gets your hearts throbbing because we're in
deep shit.